Woo, the Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Sabzu, the rated R radio star, here with one of my favorite times of the month. Every single month, you always get this action, and it is always hotter than hell, because is there anything hotter than Star Wars? I don't know. All right, I think there is, but that's besides the point. But this is always a great time, of course, because I don't ever have to do this alone. I am joined by... I don't want to use this term, but I'm going to use it. My brother in arms here, at least in the Resistance or in the Empire, depending upon what we happen to be flying this week. But anyway, of course, joined by Robin Freebeard. Robin, man, welcome to the Star Wars Update as always.
Come on, when are we flying anything but TIE fighters?
Yeah, you're totally right. I'm in a TIE Defender every time. Maybe I'd jump in a YT 1300 or something if I was.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But otherwise, no, I hear you, man. So anyway, wow. What a month as always. I mean, you know, I've noticed there have been some other Star Wars podcasts out there that have really been talking about like shifting format and everything. They don't want to be so much of a news show. And these are generally like weekly Star Wars podcasts. And I imagine like every week, you know, I think you and I could do a Star Wars show every week and always have plenty of shit to talk about.
Yeah. What do these people think, they're running out of material or something?
Well, apparently, I don't know. I mean, like we have so much to talk about. And we usually end up, I mean, we initially, when we started talking about doing this show together, we're like, yeah, we'll do an hour. It'll be, you know, we could probably fill that in. That'll be fine. Then we end up doing like 2 hours plus, like almost every month, you know. So there's plenty of Star Wars to talk about. There always will be. And of course, you know, we have some odd 40 years of history really to always discuss. Speaking of which, it just like hit me, I guess yesterday or the day before, that next year is going to be 20 years since episode 1 came out, you know, May 1999. That is unbelievable. I don't even want to think about that was 20 years ago, like, because I know where I was, and
me too. Yeah. I was working at a movie theater.
Oh, hell yeah. Or you're really knee deep.
Yeah. Yeah. I still have like out in the garage, like a bunch of promotional material from episode 1, including a 35 millimeter film trailer.
Holy shit. Wow. Yeah. Well, you know, I'll tell you, I think, and just to tease for people, I think in May of next year of 2019, I think it should just be all episode 1. Like we should just talk about our experience, you know, what it was like, talk about, I mean, there's all kinds of things to talk about with that. Like that was such a groundbreaking thing, whether people liked it or not. It really was revolutionary at its time. I mean, even just like being able to watch the trailer on the internet. I mean, like there was lots of things that were just, you know, unique and new when that came out. I think that'd be a fun episode to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Star Wars, you know, fandom was kind of, you know, hitting a peak there before it came out.
Oh,
you know, because there was so much stuff going on. This was, you had the Timothy Zahn novels that had recently wrapped up, and
Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah,
I mean,
Star Wars was banging.
Yeah. No, it was a fucking exciting time as hell. I mean, it really was. So I think it'd be fun to just get a good retrospective and break down a lot of the topics and everything, and do, you know, we'll see, or break down a lot of what was going on at the time. And yeah, I'll start planning for that, because I would really love to do that.
That'd be cool.
Anyway, what do you got?
Yeah, so that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. It'd be fun maybe to do one of those episodes where we think we're in 1999, but we could, maybe the first 5 minutes we'll pretend we're like in 1999. There's something, I don't know. We'll figure. I'll plan something. It'll be great anyway, because I personally, on a personal level, like I actually still love episode 1. But anyway, we don't want to get lost in the weeds on that, because we got tons, like I said, we have tons and tons of Star Wars to talk about this month. It's been a hell of a month, a lot of announcements, a lot of new content out there, some of which I think is genuinely great, that we will get into. And actually, ironically, I didn't think about this when I started talking about episode 1, but our question of the month has to do with the prequels. So very fitting, I guess, that we start and end discussing that. But all right, why don't we get into, well, you know, before we get into the actual news, let's talk about something that, speaking of other Star Wars podcasts, a lot of them just completely ignore the comic books. It's a point that's been bothering the fuck out of me for years, ever since Disney took over, partly because this is canon material and it generally comes out every week, generally. If anything, maybe you get 2 issues in 1 week, you know?
Yeah, through the various series.
Right, over the various series, which right now we're running with what's live. I mean, there's like various solo comics out right now, as in Han
Right.
Solo. Then there's the Dr. Aphra series, which is still running. Then there's the Darth Vader series, and we have the official Star Wars comic. Poe
Right.
Dameron, of course, we did the review for that. That series is its run is over, unfortunately. But why don't we just break down kind of the three that are running, and we'll talk about the solo stuff another month. Yeah, because it's once it all wraps up.
Yeah.
But Dr. Aphra, how are we feeling about this comic book right now?
Honestly, I think the storyline they're doing with 000 is kind of getting a little stale.
Yeah, I'm with it. Like it used to be funny. Now it's just kind of boring.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love Dr. Aphra, but it really, I mean, like, it really is getting to the point where it seems like the story is less about her and it's more about 000.
Right. Which
and Darth Vader.
Yeah, and right, Vader. Which I mean, hey, the guy's got his. I mean, okay, you can put Vader in anything you want. I'm going to love it, but the guy does have his own comic book. It's not
right,
like,
but exactly, yeah, he kind of steals the show in anything he does. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, we need what was making the Aphra comic great for me was the Tolvan, or the Inspector Tolvan and Dr. Aphra kind of relationship, the romantic relationship. And when you're not getting that, I don't know, that like the comic doesn't do as much for me.
I mean, they kind of had some of that in there, but they're kind of they effectively ended it.
Yeah, right. I mean,
and it's kind of like, why am I coming back for now more?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but anyway, so yeah, Dr. Aphra feeling a little weak. They got to pick business back up.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one where they don't need to pick business back up, because it is white hot, and that's not a pun at Mustafar. But I mean, the Darth Vader comic, the what are we in issue number 24 now? The Darth Vader comic
25.
is 20. Is it 25?
Yeah, the last one was 25.
Oh, I thought it was 24. Anyway, okay, yeah, 25. This is just some of the best Star Wars writing done in a long time. I mean,
oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That was the you're right, it is 24. Okay. I was looking at my collection from the last Darth Vader series, which ended with 25.
Right. That was volume 1, and now we're in volume 2.
Right. So I kind of wonder if that kind of seems like they might be getting ready to start a new volume here.
Oh, they might, because this storyline that's running right now wraps up next issue.
Yeah.
And we know that because it says to be concluded at the end of issue 24.
Right.
Yeah. Now this comic is, especially the recent storyline. We brought it up last month on the Star Wars update, where this is about Vader getting his castle built on Mustafar, and the Emperor gives him this planet. But you find out that there's Mustafarians. There's like native people there, and they are none too happy over the fact that the Dark Lord has set up residence. And of course he doesn't give a shit. And like, there are just some great moments where, I mean, total Darth Vader badassery, where he's like jumping off of getting thrown off of, actually, but then landing off of tremendous heights, and then leading stormtroopers to go kick some ass. I mean, it's just, again, he steals the show, whatever he does, and you always take it seriously, because he's easily one of the greatest villains in any fictional history. And I'm loving the hell out of this. I mean, what are your thoughts on the recent story?
This is smoke. I mean, Darth Vader, both volumes have been consistently pretty good since the beginning. But now there are moments in the first volume that I thought were just kind of like some of the best stuff in Star Wars comics. But this storyline right now, I would say, is even rivaling those moments.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing. Go ahead.
And you've got like you were talking about, where the Mustafarians are rising up against Darth Vader, and you wonder how Vader could be wreaking havoc and destroying a planet of lava and fire, and yet he does it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, and you're seeing some of like the most incredible force powers put on display. Especially throughout the recent storyline, which it's up to part 6, and I guess it'll end with part 7. Just incredible. And I mean, we're dealing with, in fact, really, this is getting into some areas that I think breaks some long-standing Star Wars tradition. In fact, even some Lucas tradition, which is that like people that use the dark side aren't supposed to be able to come back to life, or, well, okay, no, they can come back to life because obviously Darth Plagueis was capable of doing that. But I thought Lucas had some kind of rule that there were no dark side force ghosts. And in a way, it kind of feels like they're doing that because Momin comes back in this, and they do call him Lord Momin in this. And so, I mean, that it feels like it's kind of breaking that, but then at the same time, I don't know, I'm just enjoying it.
It's also interesting in that, I think it's the first time we've really seen something where somebody's cracking up a doorway to another like realm of existence in the Star Wars universe. I can't, because I mean, they've always, had the Force Ghost. So there is sort of a implication of an afterlife.
Yeah.
But insofar as actually kind of having a defined, realm of the dead or land of the dead, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and that's pretty much what we got. I mean, there is, of course, in Star Wars Rebels, they had the world between worlds.
But that was kind of like the way they described that in the after shows. It was kind of like a pocket universe or something.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't actually like a heaven or hell, which is
it was
what we're getting.
Yeah, it was kind of like a grand central station of the Star Wars, timeline or universe.
Right. It's almost like the mycelial network in Star Trek Discovery. That's
exactly.
That's what that felt like. But I mean, it is, it's an important point to bring up, this idea of an afterlife in Star Wars. Obviously, Force Ghosts, hint at that, but also, in Empire Strikes Back, I mean, this is a line that's always baffled me, and it's not just an Empire anymore. Now there's been other comics where people have used the term, but Han Solo clearly says on Echo Base, he says, "I'll see you in hell," and so there is a hell,
right.
I mean, you got to do something with that. Like, and so for Vader, the Vader comic to be showing what would appear to be that kind of thing. I mean, I guess it's not too out of precedent.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know what to make of that, but this is, this is the stuff. And I love this is when we get to really explore the nature of the Star Wars universe at the really deep core. Anytime that any material, movie, expanded, whatever, or other mediums, whatever it is, I always love that. And we're really getting that with this Vader comic. So this is definitely the thing to be reading and experiencing. I think the best thing going in Star Wars right now.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody's got wants to pick up some Star Wars comics, I would definitely pick up, was it the last 4 issues?
Yeah, or last Vader? 6. Yeah.
Last 6. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. So now a series that hasn't been that amazing and kind of lackluster and disappointing almost consistently is where Afra has had its moments. Vader's obviously been amazing. But the main Star Wars comic, which really should be the comic that shines, has not, and it really still hasn't.
No, I can't even think of any moments within the main Star Wars comic that really stand out to me.
Yeah, other than like the storyline with the Mon Cal.
And even that was kind of like, I mean, it was nice, but it wasn't really anything special to me. They killed off Lee Char in kind of an ignoble way.
Yeah. Not befitting a king, that's for sure.
No.
Right. And even that had Vader to kind of prop it up a bit. And in fact, it interplayed with the Vader comic, I think, as well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, which, that gave it a little more legitimacy. So no, I agree with you. There's not, I mean, I can think of the storylines like, like the post Jeddah storyline, dealing with what's her name, Sho Turin or whatever. Maybe I didn't, or that other princess and how she betrays the Rebel Alliance. Like, I mean, there are some cool sequences with that, but overall, it's just been a lackluster comic series. And
that last story they did with they kind of tied in the because the Vader stuff was taking place in the past, wasn't it? With the Mon Calamari storyline, and the main Star Wars comic was doing kind of the Mon Calamari uprising during the Rebellion era.
Right.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a direct crossover, but they kind of linked up because you kind of saw like the fall of Mon Calamari and then kind of like the rise again. But then the one thing that was really terrible. I mean, like here again, they've just not handled famous characters' death well, and they killed off General Dodonna.
Yeah, in the
and not even on
storyline.
screen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have an answer. Where did he go? But no, they did not handle that well at all. I mean, in general, Star Wars hasn't handled deaths well at all either. Like, I remember back in the 90s when Darksaber, the novel Darksaber, written by the man who shall not be named on this show, where they killed off Crix Madine. And I was like, I mean, not a big character by any stretch, but I was just like, well, that was shitty.
Yeah.
And of course, what they did with Chewbacca, New Jedi Order, I mean, like a bunch of things that just never made a whole ton of sense. It was just trying to bring on some kind of shock value. Yeah, I hear you. So,
and the whole point of resetting the expanded universe was to sort of correct the errors of the past, and here they are just kind of repeating them. So that is disappointing. Yeah,
agreed. Though I'll tell you, in issue 57, which is the latest issue of the Star Wars comic, we got something I don't think any of us ever expected to see. I know in DC Comics, everybody was talking about seeing Batman's dick, like that happened. But this in Star Wars 57, boy, did we get a show. In fact, you and I, Robin, we were talking before we hit the big button to hit record. What did you call him?
Oh yeah, I'm Han Solo, Captain of the Beefcake Millennium Falcon.
Yes. So there's a point where they're stranded on this planet, Sana Staros, whatever. She drops them off and says, wait here, I'll be back for you, whatever. And so they're on this like isolationist planet being treated very well and everything. And it's a place that seems almost kind of communist. Basically, it's all the labor theory of value there, where if you want a beer, you got to work for it. There's no money. And so Han Solo wants a beer, and I mean, which I'll give them credit for, at least, admitting that alcohol is a thing in the Star Wars universe. Because you would expect Disney not to do that, but they're probably willing to do that because at their whole Galaxy's Edge, theme park that Disney's going to have, I'm sure they're going to serve alcohol for the adults. So you better start injecting it into the Star Wars comics, I guess. But anyway, Han Solo's like in the back of this thing. Leia comes looking for him, and you see the panel in the comic, and Leia just says, "Oh," and there's this, it was a centerfold, stable marks on the stomach, the whole thing pretty much of Han Solo with his shirt off, and holy shit, ripped. He looked like Frank Zane. I mean, he looked tremendous. And I was just like, what the hell is this? Harrison Ford has never looked like that in his life. Like, what the hell?
Well, with one exception, finally, we have some canon material to match up with those Power of the Force action figures back from the 90s.
Yes. Yeah. So, all right. That's a great, man. Bravo. Yes. So in 97, they start re-releasing all the Star Wars toys, partly due to the special editions coming out. Here's the thing, is that if you remember the Star Wars toys in the 70s, now granted, that was before I was even born, but I remember them. Everybody just looked kind of simple, not even G.I. Joe's, very flat and plain Jane. But the Power of the Force figures were all jacked. Like Luke Skywalker has like this huge chest, and he has the V-neck white thing on from A New Hope, and white tunic on from A New Hope, and everything. It just looks huge. I remember Lando Calrissian, just looked like Lee Haney going around, or Ronnie Coleman or something. He looked incredible.
Yeah, and it's like they had one body model for all the male figures, and they just everybody was a beefcake.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they only had one type. It was called steroids, and they just they just printed them all out in plastic. It was pretty amazing. But that's hilarious. That's what that references to, is that all these figures were jacked. And I remember back in the day, everybody was commenting on that. Like, wait, what the fuck what's with Macho Luke? Like, he's supposed to be the the eternal boy. He's supposed to be like Peter Pan of the Star Wars universe, and he looks like Arnold. What the fuck? So but now finally those figures are canon now.
That reminds me, they did that before in the old Marvel comic series too. There was no, not Han, but Luke. They did a series where like Luke had kind of like long He-Man like hair, and he was totally ripped, and I think that's what they were going after, was like the He-Man audience.
Yeah, I could believe that. It was amazing. Anyway, yeah. So Star Wars 57. If you want to see what Han Solo looks like with his shirt off, you're in for a sight. And I mean, I like to think, I do all right in the mirror, but Han Solo's got me beat 10-1. So, but of course, never tell him the odds. Anyway, yeah. So that's the comic news. I think to break down. That Darth Vader comic is everything. Everything else is really just bonus material at the moment. So, all right. I was going to bring up, I have a certain order usually that I like to bring things in, but while we're talking about the comic books, I'm going to actually switch this up a little bit. And one of the lead stories that we came in with last month during the October 2018 Star Wars update was one that I was more than happy about, which is that Chuck Wendig got fired from Star Wars. Effectively, of course, this is the guy that wrote the Aftermath trilogy, which was, in my opinion, very lackluster. And there was questions. So he got fired. I mean, you can go listen to last month's show to find out the reasons behind that. It more or less had to do with shit he was saying on Twitter. But there was questions over whether I think it was like a 6-issue miniseries that he was the lead writer for, called Shadow of Vader. What was going to happen with that? Was somebody going to come pencil in and, fill in for him? But it turns out that they're just completely canceling this comic miniseries, Shadow of Vader. And, because Wendig's gone.
Well, there's more reasons too. I mean, I don't know if you've heard.
Oh, go for it. Tell me about it.
I know you don't do Twitter anymore, but Chuck didn't exactly learn his lesson from getting fired. So he made a big stink about getting fired from Star Wars on Twitter.
Okay.
And basically, I don't know if it was him or someone else, but once they also made this announcement that he was basically saying anybody that they got to replace him on this comics series was essentially a scab.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, let's cancel that miniseries.
Right.
Jeez.
So from a PR perspective, he pretty much, backed Disney into a corner because Chuck and all of his follows made such a huge stink about it, and they were going to just basically rip into whoever they got to pen the rest of the series. They figured, there's no point in exposing somebody to that much risk, and they canceled the whole thing.
Yeah, wow. Well, then in some sense, that's actually kind of sad because, I mean, yeah, Star Wars can't there's always going to be a stink around anything Star Wars because it's such easy press to get if you do something attached to Star Wars. But I mean, it's had a lot of really, with, The Last Jedi and other things, it doesn't need another fiasco like that. So I can see where I think where Marvel / Disney is coming from. Wow, that's crazy. What an ass.
Yeah.
Good riddance. Yeah, good riddance. Exactly. I kind of wish he was a great writer in a way, and then I wouldn't be so harsh. But I don't think he is. And I just, wow. Ugh. What the fuck? Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. But that series is canceled.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and that's fine because we have plenty of we were just talking about all the comics we got, so it's not like we need another Vader miniseries. Not that I'm opposed to it, but we certainly don't need it. So anyway,
it's kind of, it is just on a parting note. It's strange that some of these people like this think that doing this kind of stuff is a good idea, because who's going to want to hire him in the future,
right?
For any other sort of property.
Yeah, I can't picture it.
Yeah, if he's this toxic and if he's willing to create so much drama in the media, then he's kind of shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously they made the right move in just saying, see you later.
Right.
That's absolutely what needed to be done. Wow. Well, anyway, on to some good news. I think that was good news that he's out and that's canceled. But on to some really good news. Talk about adding somebody to Star Wars. How about that? I am very excited about this. More excited perhaps really than I should be, because it's a coup and it's not a coup. But in the TV series that we're going to be getting, which I guess now it's official. What is it called? Disney Plus. I think that's the name of the streaming service.
Yeah, I haven't heard any official news on the name of it, but if you say that's what it is, I believe you.
Yeah, it's something like that. But they have like, and they did announce that it's going to start September 2019. That's when it's going to go live. So, and of course, one of the first things we're going to get on that is the Star Wars TV show, The Mandalorian. And we're going to get Gina Carano in The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian, of course, what I think they've also given us an episode count on that. Is it 12? 10 or 12 episodes?
Yeah, that seems the kind of standard for streaming series these days. Is they do kind of an initial short run on the first season.
Right. And that's an interesting point too that's come out about the Mandalorian, is that it may not have a second season. Like, it might be by design to just be one. I'll be intrigued if that ends up being true. I mean, like, I don't see why they do that, but maybe that'll be so. But regardless, we are getting Gina Carano, which she is best known probably for like her role in Deadpool. But she's been in a lot of things. She's been in Fast and Furious movies. I remember first seeing her in the relaunch of American Gladiators about, I guess maybe that was about 10 years ago. And that is really where she started. And of course, then she was also in MMA. I mean, this woman is a legit badass in every sense of the word. She is not, admittedly, she voice wise, she's not the best actor in the world. Like, I can admit that. I will admit, I think she is very sexy. She's a beautiful woman, and tremendously talented physically and all that. And it'll be interesting to see what what role she has in this. We have no idea about that. But this is kind of news because she does land herself in some pretty huge franchises, and she does always have, at the very least, a presence. And so I'm excited for it. I'm a fan. I've been a fan of hers ever since the American Gladiator days. So to have her in Star Wars, I think that's great. I don't know. What do you think about it, Robin?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, I think I mentioned to you before that I think this indicates that she's probably going to be lending some sort of physicality to the series, and that they're going to have a good deal of action.
Yeah, I mean, you can really bring her in, and she can really do this stuff. And so yeah, it does lend itself to the idea that there's going to be some serious action in this, but also it's going to be practical effect action, or at least it can be, because she can deliver that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so I think this is a good thing. Just about any announcement. I mean, I haven't heard really any. I've never heard a bad casting decision really in Star Wars yet, since Disney took over. I mean, even with Alden Ehrenreich, like I didn't think that was horrible. Go ahead.
Who were you going to get to replace Harrison Ford? I mean, that was gonna.
Yeah, no name would have been good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's a fact. So, but Gina Carano, I'll take it. Maybe she's going to be a Mandalorian character. I think she'd fit right in with that culture, or parts of that culture.
Right.
And
there was something else I wanted to mention. I forgot to bring up in the Star Wars comics, but
sure.
The people that planet they're on in issue 57, I'm kind of wondering if those guys are Mandalorians. Because they refer to themselves as a clan.
That's true. And they are kind of hunter types.
Yeah, and they said they had a violent past.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. All right. Well, we're going to see if that happens. So in the main Star Wars comic, the present planet, that their isolationist planet, might just be an entire family of Mandalorians.
Yeah, and the reason I bring that up now is because there was a theory, I don't remember who put it out there, that possible that these Mandalorians would have some sort of involvement in the TV show.
Oh.
And they're kind of, seeding the rest of the Star Wars universe with, some of these characters or whatnot.
That would be totally fine with me for a bunch of reasons. I mean, and certainly, I mean, the biggest reason is that I want the comic books and the novels to be taken seriously and to have purchase in what happens in the greater Star Wars universe, live action and so on.
And the theory that I heard was because these people were living in isolation, and it did seem like they were pretty much hiding from the Empire. What if the events in the comic, the rebels lead the Empire to these people, and they end up having to scatter, and this Mandalorian refugees end up being in the the focus of the show.
Oh, I like this. Yeah. All right. I mean, we always want to speculate responsibly, but this has a little weight to it, I think.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Yeah. Okay.
And
No, I dig.
normally I don't, advertise other people's speculation, but when I heard that theory, I was like, oh, I could see this. I could go with that.
Yeah, well, I think it behooves Disney to do some kind of like to really concentrate on new factions, on like on a third faction or something.
Right.
And to like make the Mandalorians another serious kind of, competitor in the galaxy, alongside the Rebellion and the Empire, or later on, of course, the First Order and the Resistance. Smart idea, like
Yeah.
absolutely do that.
Yeah. And the other thing that lended itself is, one of the characters, I think it was Luke, asked them, about the Empire and the Republic, whether or not they fought for the Empire or the Republic, and the guy was like, "What's the difference?"
Yeah, yeah. Well,
and that is kind of like the Mandalorians end up kind of getting the shaft from both.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I remember that point. That was actually a really cool point, like saying, did you work for the Empire or the Republic? And he says, when did one become the other? Like,
Right.
you can't, can you tell me? I don't think you can. And it's a great point to bring up. It was like a really cool little moment. So yeah, boy, that you're right. I like this, that they're Mandalorians. I mean, I'm digging the planet that they're on, like this isolationist planet. Like I kind of like it. But got to see where they're going to go with it. You're always waiting for like, the knife handle to turn somewhere. But yeah, cool. Yeah, so Gina Serrano, I'll take it. I am all for that. More women in Star Wars, please. And if it's an actress or just a woman with pedigree like this, I mean, I'll take it. I really think it's great. So now, speaking of TV series, this was one that it surprised me. It's not a bad move in my opinion, but it surprised the hell out of me. But we're going to get a Cassian Andor live action series.
Yeah.
And this is going to be a 10 episode run. Diego Luna is going to return to reprise his role, of course, from Rogue One. And I mean, not that I saw Diego Luna doing a whole bunch of other stuff anyway, so it doesn't necessarily surprise me that, he's willing to come in and do a TV series. Of course, we live in a different world than it was 20 years ago, where, it used to be that movie people would never do TV, and TV people were always dying to get into the movies.
Right.
It doesn't work that way anymore. That artificial divide doesn't exist. So this isn't really, I mean, it's only surprising in that really a Cassian Andor series. I mean, Robin, when you first heard this, what did you think?
Yeah, I was totally, caught off guard. But I see a lot of opportunity in this. I'm not the least bit, upset about this at all. This is a good idea. And I really wanted, kind of a rebel centric, more rebel centric contract that took place, between episode 3 and 4. So, because I mean, honestly, in my opinion, Rogue One is the best Disney Star Wars movie yet. So, the more they play off of that, I'm all for it. Yeah, and it definitely presents the opportunity to present characters in live action that we've seen from this era. So if we end up seeing characters from the Rebels show up in live action, I think that would be really cool.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, honestly, and goes crazy as I wouldn't mind seeing Zeb, go down the list, and even if you had Kanan, even though, what's his name? Not Matthew Lillard, Freddie Prinze Jr. Sorry, Freddie Prinze Jr. I don't mind if Matthew Lillard came into the Star Wars universe either. Go ahead, but Freddie Prinze Jr. has made it pretty clear he would not play a live action Kanan Jarrus,
right?
But you could get somebody to do that. That'd be a cool way to see some lightsabers in it. I think this would also offer an opportunity. Well, yeah, no, it would offer an opportunity for Darth Maul to make an appearance. It would allow for Ahsoka. Yeah, that'd be a great one. I'm excited that it could allow for Mon Mothma. Please.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or even Saw Gerrera. I mean, this gives you a chance to take a lot of these characters that we already know kind of the tragedy around them, and just bring them in, and give us some live action one more time. Even though it is only a 10 episode run so far as we know. We don't know if it's going to get a season 2 or anything like that.
Right.
But I imagine this is going to be pretty popular. Like, I think this is going to hit. Honestly, like, I hate to say this, other than Ben Mendelsohn, like, as far as people I remember from Rogue One, like where I remember their names and like where they really stand out for me, I gotta admit, Cassian Andor really does stand out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I totally remember Diego Luna's name. I mean, like, he was that good. He really, really pulled it off. If we're going to get, I don't know if we're going to get K2SO necessarily here, but I mean, hey, what the hell?
Yeah, and well, you remember when I did the review of the Secrets of the Empire VR experience?
Yeah.
And that was one of the really cool things, because when you start out, you're getting your mission briefing from Cassian Andor.
Right.
And that was really cool.
Yeah. And I like this. I mean, if it gets to play a little espionage game because he is in Rebel Intelligence, I'm all for that. Give me some Star Wars James Bond, you bet your ass. And honestly, Diego Luna could pull off a very smooth character, I think, where it could almost be sexy, and then I would love that if they did so.
And it would also give a chance to kind of explore those sort of darker elements of the Rebel Alliance that they hinted at in Rogue One.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this is, I think we talked about this last month, maybe when we were talking about what dream show would we like to see. None of us mentioned a Cassian Andor series, but we did both mention we'd love like a TIE fighter show, where it's from the Imperial perspective. And this could help give us, or at least start pointing in the direction of where, look, the rebels are terrorists. I mean, from a certain point of view, not to quote Obi-Wan, but from a certain point of view, these people are terrorists. And to see that darker side, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, even from the rebel perspective, I mean, I think he even said in Rogue One that, they had all done things that they'd regretted.
Yeah.
Or that they felt were terrible, that were done out of necessity.
Yeah. And also, speaking like with the novelization for Rogue One by, was that Alexander Freed that wrote that? I think
so. Yeah.
Yeah. He talked about, or in the book, it talks about how Cassian was like, his family was in the Confederacy, and that, like, that would be cool. Like, cause he says, I've been in this since I was like 6 years old. I'd love to see some flashbacks or, something to where you could see some more live action Clone Wars action like that. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That's Cassian was a really young boy. Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. I really like that.
Yeah. No, I'd take that all the way. So, I mean, great stuff we already have lined up for the Disney Plus streaming service. We have Clone Wars. We got the return of that. We have, we've got Diego Luna coming back as Cassian Andor with his own show. And then, of course, we have The Mandalorian, which is already looking fantastic. So, or like, it's shaping up with some really cool stuff. So yeah, exciting things going on as far as TV shows and Star Wars. Let me ask you, Robin, actually. So I've heard some commentators within, kind of the Star Wars fandom saying that they think TV is where Star Wars is really going to shine, and eventually, like, TV is just going to be the main thing that people know Star Wars for. How do you feel about that kind of comment?
I'm not necessarily against it. While we were talking about this, with them doing sort of these 10 and 12 episode runs of these shows that are coming out, I'm almost kind of wondering if Disney is kind of going for, a series of anthologies.
Sure.
Every year have a new sort of focus of different characters and timelines, and
kind of like True Detective, where it's like one show, it has a name, but every season is like a different it's a completely different storyline, different characters or whatever, but it has kind of this format as to where this could be like an anthology thing.
Because the Cassian Andor show, that's going to be the year after the Mandalorian, isn't it? Well, or at the same time.
I'm not sure as far as release dates, you mean? Yeah, I'm not sure when they're going to. I didn't catch a date on when they're going to start releasing the Cassian Andor series.
Yeah, I could be wrong on this, but I think the Cassian Andor is supposed to air the year after the Mandalorian. So I mean, I'm kind of just like wondering if, like, next year we're going to hear about another TV show that is going to be in 2021.
Yeah, well, it'd be smart to do Cassian Andor the year after, because I mean, The Mandalorian is obviously, if the streaming service doesn't start till September 2019, The Mandalorian is going to run into episode 9 pretty quickly,
right?
And so I think flooding people with The Mandalorian, episode 9, and if the Cassian Andor show was run at the same time, I don't think everybody would be able to watch that.
Yeah,
And
well, we've talked about, kind of Star Wars burnout with when we had, what is it, Han Solo coming out right after, 6 months after Episode 8, and that was
yeah,
kind of a mistake.
yeah, no, it was. There's a point I want to bring up with that, but I mean, the other problem is that Netflix, for example, which is the biggest streaming service at the moment, does have the problem where there's so much content coming out, people can't literally keep up with it, and they just miss it. Like they just won't know that it even exists.
Right.
And I kind of feel like that same thing could happen here, where even if people would be willing to watch a Cassian Andor show, if they were just flooded with so much content on the Disney streaming service, they'd completely miss it. Like they just wouldn't even know that it was necessarily a thing. So yeah, I think pausing a bit would be a great thing. So I did hear, speaking of Star Wars commentators, I did hear another great point brought up, talking about how like it was a mistake for Solo to come out in May when The Last Jedi had just dropped in December, just 6 months previous. And that was that really, like, if instead of Solo, if that movie was potentially either Obi-Wan, which we know was going to be a movie, and like I guess that was at one point that really was a done deal, and now they're just not doing it. At least not for now. If it was an Obi-Wan movie or if it was a Darth Vader movie, it wouldn't matter. It would have done just insane money.
Right.
Like really, and this is something, this is kind of a side subject, but just that this was the, and you said it very well, like this is, and many others did as well, that this is the movie that just nobody asked for, nobody really cared about whether they liked it or not. It just didn't need to be there. But if they had made a movie, with especially like a Darth Vader movie, like no matter what, it would have been huge. It would have been amazing. So we can't put, like, I think it's a solid point, and Bob Iger has admitted that it was a mistake to release the movie that much, that close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was the right movie, I don't think it would have mattered.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of unfortunate that we got the Han Solo movie instead of an Obi-Wan or Darth Vader movie. Absolutely. And that had to be the Han Solo movie that kind of, spoiled it for everybody.
Yeah. No, I agree with you completely. Yeah. Anyway, one day someone's going to come out with like the secret history of Disney Star Wars, and we're going to be like, oh, now that makes sense.
That's going to be an interesting story.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Because all they got to do is from 2013 to 2018. Yeah, and there's just so much juice there that I know is going to be amazing. I can't wait for that book. Someone's going to be sneaky enough to make that. But anyway, well, I guess before we get into, we do want to talk about and do a little review of the past 4 episodes of Star Wars Resistance. But before we do that, since we brought up The Last Jedi, certainly one of the most controversial aspects of The Last Jedi is the fact that, well, kind of like I said earlier, is that, Luke Skywalker was not Peter Pan, was not the, the boyish character, or the ever boyish character that I think everybody was expecting him to be, the always hopeful, the optimist, and so on, and always youthful. That he acted like a very old man, and not just an old man, but a grumpy and tired and sick of shit, kind of old man. There was a story that made the rounds recently. Actually, Esquire has it here, and I'll just read the headline. An early Star Wars image proves Luke Skywalker's twist in The Last Jedi was planned from the beginning. And basically what they're doing is they're pulling from an art book for The Force Awakens. And when they're showing off Luke, they are showing a very grizzled Luke. In fact, he even has like these really like whitish eyes and everything, and that he is definitely a darker character. Point being is that a lot of people blame, including Mark Hamill in a way, that Rian Johnson like fucked up the character of Luke by turning him kind of darker and very grizzled and so on. But actually, that has always been the plan since episode 7, or that has at least been an idea since episode 7. Link is in the show notes if you want to check it out. I do remember this from the Force Awakens art book, which I have a copy of. And I didn't think about it much then, but now that they pointed out, yeah, there it is. I mean, how do you feel about this, Robin?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like this is obviously not new news.
Right.
And I think they're, to a certain degree, they're grasping at straws to be kind of digging through old art books to make headlines.
Sure.
So, and not only that, like the things that we've heard about Lucas's original version of Episode 7, and the kind of story that is told in the concept art for the Force Awakens before they did all of the they decided to write their own scripts. I mean, there was going to be scenes where we saw the part of the Death Star 2 underwater, and they were going to be exploring it underwater, all kinds of weird and just freaky shit. And this is kind of like a little too much speculation for my taste.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, apparently the production crews have like confirmed that, that this was going to be the idea regardless. But I think your point is solid that they've had a lot of ideas that they kind of shifted and went back and forth on whether they were going to go with it. So you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying like it was still Rian Johnson's call. He still pulled the trigger to make.
Because they're basically trying to go back and kind of establish some sort of certitude with what they were going to do with the character. And from looking back at The Force Awakens and everything that was going on with Episode 7, there was no certitude up until the moment they started filming.
Absolutely. And I when you say that, like, I think that makes sense. I mean, regardless, again, I mean, that's kind of how I felt about it, was that really Rian Johnson, I mean, he could have changed it. Even if this was the plan, he could have clearly said whatever the hell he wanted to say, because he obviously disregarded a lot from The Force Awakens. And I really think he did. I don't buy into necessarily that he didn't know. I mean, I know like some of what he wrote, he knew ahead of time, but he really could have changed shit at any given moment. So this is interesting, but I'm with you. I like it. You make a great case. So just an interesting little tidbit that people have been kind of going nuts about. I mean, anything they can do to defend that last movie, boy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really what the article is about, is shutting down the naysayers, which, I mean, hey, fine. I'm just kind of like over internet arguments about Episode 8. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I mean, as I said, I think I said it last month, my verdict on Last Jedi will come when Episode 9 comes out. What that does with the saga will judge how I feel about, the past two movies in a very real way. So, or the past two episodic movies. But yeah, fair point. So anyway, want to talk up some Star Wars Resistance? Awesome.
Hell yeah. So we got, let's see, episodes, what do we got? 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So actually, I guess it's more than 4 episodes. So I guess I'll just ask you, Robin, I mean, how are you feeling about the show right now overall before we break down some of the episodes?
I'm not into it as much as I was the first season of Rebels. This is not to say I'm not enjoying it at all. One thing I keep on expecting, and they just really haven't done, is exploring the characters of the aces. I want to know more about these characters, and we keep on not getting it. In fact, we got a whole new ace pilot in one of these episodes. And it was a great story. It was a really good story. I enjoyed it a lot, but it was a new character. Yeah. And I'm like, when are we getting to know about some of these other characters that are, established on the base?
Yeah, agreed. And they really were like, I mean, they were doing mini documentaries about all the aces and everything that are supposed to be, at this platform.
Right. It's Constable Zuvio all over again.
Well said. Yeah. So, right. I mean, so in the last episode, which you were referencing, which is episode 9, which was the Platform Classic was the name of the episode. We end up meeting Marcus Speedstar, who is the brother to what's his name there? Yeager. You're right. So, and yeah, it was a great story. Actually, I thought it was a great episode.
I do too. In fact, I think that was the strongest episode of the last 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, and it was, well, I mean, spoiler alerts, like that was some heavy shit. Like, and in fact, it's kind of too heavy. Like you're talking about that Yeager's family, his child and his wife were killed by his brother because of fucking some racing bullshit. And I'm like, wow, that's dark. This really is a kid's show, and you're going dark.
Well, to be fair, Brian, the last time we talked about Resistance, you were talking about wanting more high drama. So, careful what you ask for.
No, you're right. But I mean, like, the thing is it went from like, Kaz's jokes to, to like a really, really serious level of darkness. I mean, faster than Yeager's fucking racer. I mean, like, it was like that's pretty quick to jump to that. Yeah. And I kind of felt like that's what they were going to say, is that he somehow was responsible for their deaths, which not a crazy thing to bring up. I mean, in NASCAR, this shit happens all the time. People don't talk about it often because I don't watch NASCAR before anybody, accuses me of that. They're listening lazily to the left. I mean, I can't, just can't do it. but I mean, like, it happens where racers wipe out and their cars will literally launch into the crowds and kill people.
Right.
I mean, like, that occurs. Not terribly often, but it does happen. So yeah, I was just surprised at how dark it went. And also in that episode was like you said, how we're not getting the aces. That's my main critique right now as well. Because I think that's the first time we saw Griff Halloran, the ex-TIE fighter pilot, right, in a little bit of action, and you only see him for a split second, but
and he has no speaking lines.
Nope, none. I don't. We still don't know what the hell he sounds like.
Or,
I mean, we kind of, maybe from one of the documentaries we do, but not really in show. So yeah, I mean, we're meeting some of the other ones, like I think it was episode 5 where we finally got to meet Hype Phazon, which I thought was a funny character and cool. That worked. And also, the other thing that I thought was interesting in these episodes was the character was a Commander, I think was his title, Commander Pyre, who is for the First Order, except he reports to Captain Phasma, but he has gold armor,
right?
Which I thought was kind of cool to see that. Like, I didn't mind that at all.
Yeah. Well, we had what was the character they had? A stormtrooper with red armor too. Was that the Phasma book?
Oh yeah. Actually, in the Phasma book, right? There's that kept. Yeah. Oh shit, I can't think of his name, but right, he did have red armor and was like tied really closely to Snoke.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and he wasn't one of Snoke's palace guards or anything either. He was just like someone else.
Right.
Yeah. So this coloration of armor is kind of a thing. I dig it. I think it's a cool idea.
It's cool. Yeah. It is interesting that Captain Phasma's armor is still unique compared to the other stormtroopers, whereas this gold stormtrooper is just like regular stormtrooper armor, but it's painted gold.
Yeah, because hers is made out of the one of the Emperor's Naboo ships or something like that.
Yeah, it was either Emperor's or it might have even been Padme's. I don't know. I don't think they were ever like really clear on that, but
right. But that is Naboo chrome.
Right.
Royal chrome that she's wearing, which is a big deal.
Right. But even like the shape of her helmet is different than the rest of the stormtroopers.
True. Yep, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, so she still stands out, but it's cool to have these other characters that have this sort of thing. The other interesting thing, and now I can't remember the name of the gang, but they showed off that gang that wears red armor and they have like the singular like target symbol.
Oh, right. Yeah. Gosh, I just had it too. Guavian Death Squad.
Yeah, that's it. Guavian Death Squad. Exactly. That was cool to see them again.
Yeah.
Because they've appeared in previous live action material. And yeah, so I mean, there's some nice tie-ins. We're getting some cool tie-ins. We're getting some cool story. I mean, especially, I definitely think really, and the main one that's really worth talking about is the platform classic, the last episode. We also find out more about like that after the Battle of Jakku. Yes, that is absolutely where the Empire was finally defeated. And also that the New Republic military completely downsized or significantly downsized after the Battle of Jakku. Those are details we did not know up until this episode.
Wasn't it? I could have sworn I've heard that before somewhere.
Well, I think we knew that, like in the Aftermath trilogy that asshat Chuck Wendig wrote, they did talk about that the Battle of Jakku was the end of the Empire. But the idea that the New Republic military was significantly...
Well, that also got up... I think that also got brought up in the Battlefront 2 single player campaign.
Oh, yeah. I think you're right about that. But that makes some sense. And that's an interesting point to bring up that, the Republic would downsize its military. I mean, the old Republic, or well, see, now these terms are weird because there's actually an old republic, then there's a republic, and then there's a new republic.
Right.
It's where back in the day, okay, before episode 2 or before any of this horseshit, like we just had an old republic and we had a new republic.
Right.
But now we find out there's actually like 3 different ones. But anyway, the republic, I guess we'll say, not the new republic or the old republic, the republic, which eventually became the empire, or, that is like the centerpiece of the Clone Wars, didn't really have a military.
Right.
And like that was the big deal about hiring the clone army, was like,
exactly.
We haven't had it. So it makes sense for the New Republic to do that. I don't think we ever heard that explicitly, but that was a nice bit of detail and this is what I want. I just explain, give me the galactic news, tell me how what's going on all over the place and that has broad ramifications, which this does. And it explains, what happened to Poe and what happened to Yeager. Like, why is Poe available for the Resistance? Well, because the New Republic Navy downsized.
Right.
People got fired. And I mean, that's a good thing, in my opinion, that people get, that a military shrinks. It can shrink to 0 for all I care. But yeah, that was interesting. So personally, I'm enjoying the show. I definitely episode 9 of it has been the best one so far. I share your critique, Robin, of that we're not getting the aces, and I really want to know about the aces.
Right.
And I'm not sure how many more episodes we have left, at least 2.
Yeah, I don't, I was trying to look this up online earlier today, trying to find out how many episodes we had left. And I can't really find any solid information on how many episodes we're getting in season 1.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know we're at least getting 2 more. That I can definitely.
And I assume we're going on hiatus for a while until after the holidays.
Yeah, most likely, which Rebels did every time.
Right.
Too.
Right.
Yeah, same schedule. So I do want to give another mention quick on Resistance. I thought that episode 7 of the show, which was a Signal from Sector 6, was also a standout in that we had Poe Dameron with, being voiced by the man himself. I mean, it was a really cool little episode, kind of a scary one, and
yeah,
for me, I don't like that in Star Trek, but Star Wars can pull off scary. And I thought that worked.
Scary and oddly goofy at the same time.
Yeah.
With the Kawaki and monkey lizards. I mean, you just, you never would have expected that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. But it works. And Poe was great in it. And
I do like this new character, Sonara. Is that her name?
Oh yeah, the one they rescue.
Yeah, I do like this new character. It's not really. I mean, they heavily kind of laid down the suspicion early on, even before they revealed that she was working for the pirates. But it's definitely not clear where this character is going to go, because in the episode where they actually, carry out the attack on the platform, what's her name? The other mechanic in Yeager's shop, saves her life. Yeah. And she's, really taken back by this.
Yeah, it was Tam, I think is her name.
Yeah. And so you can definitely see she's really kind of reconsidering her place in life. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with this character.
Yeah, and even between Sonara and Tam, I mean, there's like some hint at, maybe a little more than friendship.
Right, and I like that.
Yep, I'm all for that. I think that's great. So, yeah, the interesting thing bringing up about characters, the one character I like most of the characters. Hell, I even like, what's her name, Aunt Z or whatever, the bartender. I dig them all. The only character I don't like is Kaz. He's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I know.
I guess maybe he's just your eyes in the universe, because everybody else is interesting. He's kind of
they're kind of pulling what do they call it? Like with the Twilight character, where they create a character for the audience to imprint themselves upon.
Yeah, exactly. They make like a cardboard cutter or cookie cutter character that anybody can kind of put them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. That may be exactly what they're doing. This could be totally on purpose. So, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like any kid could think that they're Kaz and they're just experiencing these amazing characters around them. So, okay, yeah. Well, anyway, it'll be interesting to see. We'll review the next couple episodes, I'm sure, in next month's Star Wars update. But so far, I'm liking it. I think it's fine. So, any other comments on Resistance, Robin?
No, like I said, overall, I'm enjoying it more. Just give us more of the aces.
Yeah. Same here. Give me those aces. I'm all for it. All right, let's move on to another bit of news, which actually we have another new Star Wars show, but this one is very particular where it's going to be, and it is on a new YouTube channel, which surprises me because it felt like the fact that Lucasfilm has been labeling most of their YouTube content recently with this new kind of placard that says StarWars.com original. I'm sort of shocked that they're still they're like creating a whole new YouTube channel, which is called Star Wars Kids. And so you obviously know who it's for. I mean, honestly, I already thought that the Star Wars YouTube channel was for kids, but okay. I mean, as much as I watch it, I just kind of assumed, but anyway. But yeah, they're doing a new channel called Star Wars Kids, and actually the day I think after we are recording this, they will have the first episode of their new show. It's on November 30th. That is Star Wars Galaxy of Adventures. And I put a link in the show notes for the trailer for this. And did you watch the trailer, Robin?
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I don't get it. Is this just for kids who can't bother to sit down long enough to watch the original trilogy?
So this is right. You hit it. This feels like all they're showing. There's nothing new here. It just looks like
they're even using audio from the original trilogy and putting animation to it. Which
I mean, beautiful animation.
Yeah. But it's kind of reminiscent of like the what do they call those? The golden books, that kind of children's book illustration style.
Right. Yeah. So what it looks like is they're just going to do like little scenes from various movies or who knows what. I mean, the interesting part is where they could bring books or comics to life. Like that could get interesting with this, but it's all rehashed material. It doesn't look like there's anything original at all.
Right.
So yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you hit it. It feels like, okay, this is to like, if a kid actually couldn't sit through even 20 minutes of Resistance, this is for that kid. And it felt like a primer. It's almost like cave art paintings,
right,
of Star Wars for people. And in fact, I feel a little weird about it because it does feel like this is sort of a primer for kids who maybe can't really read yet or can't exactly grasp everything yet, but you're going to hook them to Star Wars very, very early, and I feel a little weird about that.
Yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it's not like this hasn't been done before. I mean, that's basically what all of our favorite cartoons from the 80s and 90s were vehicles to sell stuff.
That is, one of the hardest things I ever had to realize in my life was that like G.I. Joe and He-Man were just 30-minute commercials for toys.
Right. So who knows? Maybe some, young kids will grow up and remember these little shorts fondly and love them. I'm not going to, say that they don't deserve that or they shouldn't have something like that. But yeah, and obviously with the channel be calling YouTube Kids, it's not for us, and that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I'll still check this out just to see what's going on.
Right.
It is interesting to note also that the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel right now only has like 3 videos on it. 2 of those are the first 2 episodes of Resistance. So that gives you an idea of the age range that they're looking for. On that channel specifically. But again, how do you feel about the fact that there's a Star Wars Kids YouTube channel? I mean, I am still shocked. I was really thinking that Lucasfilm was going for, we're going to host our own video. We're going to put our own content on StarWars.com. If you want to see Star Wars show and all this other shit, you have to go to StarWars.com. I mean, but how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I get it from a marketing perspective. It makes sense. And I almost wonder if they're going to be using this to maybe direct more kids to like Disney XD and stuff like that. And who knows? But yeah, I get it. It was surprising.
Yeah. I mean, and again, especially even when you got the streaming service coming, I mean, like I just figured this would all be content for that. Like I'm just still surprised they're running with YouTube. But yeah, we'll keep an eye out of that. I'll probably do some kind of a review of it in next month, just to at least let people know what the hell it was.
Right.
Even though I can certainly appreciate and recognize that it's just not designed. It may not be designed for me. And okay, that's all right. So let's go into our last bit of news, and then we're going to get into our fan production of the month and then our question of the month. And the last bit of news was we have some new John Williams Star Wars music, and it is the theme, or at least part of the theme, for the Galaxy's Edge theme park, which is going to be at Disney World, Disneyland, whatever. And did you listen to this, Robin?
Yeah, I did.
I loved it.
I do too. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's great music. It feels like Star Wars. I don't know how much else there is to say on it. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I love the fact that they really are kind of fully engaged in doing some serious world building for this theme park, and it's apparently it seems like it's going to have some impact, even as much so as like the comics and the other sort of stuff that's outside of the movies. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, there's been quite a bit of news actually of things that they have planned for Galaxy's Edge, and a lot of it was like, wow, I mean, this is going to be deep. This is going to be immersive stuff, and yeah, it'll have impact on the broader Star Wars universe. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, the John Williams theme, I mean, the link is in the show notes. Give it a listen. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I already ripped it into MP3, and I have like this, like special MP3 album that I made of all this extra Star Wars music.
Nice.
And I put that there, and I've listened to it quite a few times, and John Williams still has it. So, or at least he can still compose a great piece of music. In fact, honestly, like I think this is one of the best things he's done in like 20 years, like 10 years anyway, I guess.
Yeah, I did enjoy it more than say, anything in the episode 8 soundtrack. So
exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. So anyway, check it out. I thought it was really cool. So, all right, let's get into our fan production of the month. And I might have a little bit of a surprise when we talk about this, but the fan production of the month, Robin, I'll let you take lead on this. This was your pick, and though I did take a look at it, and my mind was blown. But tell me all about it.
Yeah, so I've been actually following this project for a very long time, and longtime listeners of the Star Wars update will, of course, be very familiar with the series of video games from back in the 90s that included X-Wing and TIE Fighter and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. And of course, the last video game in that series was X-Wing Alliance, which puts you in the cockpit of the famous YT-1300 of the Millennium Falcon fame. And so the game, I think, originally came out in 99. So it was shortly before the release of episode 1. And since then, I think this project's been around for about, I don't know, probably more than 12 years. They have been updating the graphics for the game, because if you look at it today, it's really quite dated. And X-Wing Alliance was was actually the only game in that series that was fully 3D, because if you remember the original games, they kind of just had a 2D cockpit, and then the ships were all in 3D. Whereas in X-Wing Alliance, everything was rendered in 3D graphics.
Yeah, they would eventually redo some of the graphics for like TIE Fighter and X-Wing, and they'd make it Windows 98 compliant.
Right, but they still had the 2D cockpits.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Good point. Yep. Yeah, so X-Wing Alliance was, again, the graphics now, and you can get this game, GOG has it, right?
Yes, yeah, GOG and Steam, but I always go for GOG.
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely looks dated, but I saw, you shared with me this upgrade, and the link is in the show notes for people to check it out. I mean, and I was just like, holy shit, like they're showing, and they just recently did some updates in November, just a few days ago.
The updates are kind of they've tended to be very few and far between in the recent years, but they're still working on this, and their goal is to basically replace every ship model and cockpit within the game, so that is fully realized. And I wouldn't say like modern graphics, but certainly much closer looking like the actual ships in the movies than was originally in the game.
Yeah, I mean, the one shot I saw of the Corellian Corvettes, they looked fantastic. I mean, they look gorgeous.
Yeah.
And so I was really, really impressed by that. Yeah, this is a hell of a game. I mean, to try out whether it's updated or not. This is it's a flight simulator, and that seems to be a lost art these days, for the most part, because I mean, those games were wildly popular in the 90s. As far as why they ever really fell away, I don't know. But regardless, this is definitely one of the best flight simulators you could ever play. It is enjoyable because you do get to fly, of course, in the YT-1300. You get to hop in, a very Millennium Falcon-esque ship. Would this be cool? Have you heard anything? I mean, like, are they thinking, well, next year will be 20 years since this game came out. Let's release the full package, do a 20th anniversary thing. Is that what they have in mind?
I would honestly be shocked. Are you talking about from this mod group or from Lucasfilm itself?
From the mod group.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, progress on it's been very slow. People just kind of, the various people working out on their own time.
Sure.
If you go on the site, there's actually a section that shows you the ships that have not been done yet and who they've been assigned to and whatnot. And like I said, some of these people, they that have work assigned to them, they haven't posted in years, whereas other people are more active and they've been doing stuff that is like related to the project but not really for the project itself, like the Corellian Corvettes there. Not all of those were ships that were in the game. Some of those are like new and kind of unique ships. In fact, I think one of them is modeled on the Corellian Corvette from Rebels.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if you're a person that doesn't enjoy where Star Wars is going right now, if you want to keep your version of Star Wars alive, here's a great way to do it. You get to go make this shit yourself or work on it and bring it to life. I think that this is so cool. In fact, this is kind of the surprise I was mentioning. So now we actually do the show in video, though we don't always share the video, and I probably won't share it here, so you won't be able to see it yourself, but I'll put a link in the show notes if anybody wants to check this out. But a few years ago, speaking of the fact that you get to fly YT-1300 in Star Wars Alliance, or X-Wing Alliance, I should say, a few years ago, Hanes, Haynes, not the underwear, but the company that makes car guides, they started doing like fictional guides or some not so fictional, because they'd also do they did. I think the Millennium Falcon was the first one. It was either that or it was the USS Enterprise. But they do this. Yeah, they do like this guide where it looks like the car guides that you would buy so that you could see your engine schematics and everything. But they do them for these fictional starships,
right,
and spaceships. And they had done the Millennium Falcon a few years ago. They did do it previously. Well, this past Tuesday, end of November here, 2018, they did an updated one. And you can tell it's updated because it has the escape pod from Solo: A Star Wars Story, when Lando Calrissian was running the whole ship here. And I got to tell you, now I also do have like the one for the Enterprise. There's one for a Klingon bird of prey. They did one for the Death Star, and then they've done them for they did it for like Voyager 1 and 2, like real probes from Earth.
Right.
They've done it for a bunch of things. But I got to tell you, going through this, and they did a really phenomenal job with this one. They really did the yeoman's work here. It just reminds me, I miss the good old days of like Star Wars technical manuals. That in the 90s, we've talked about this before. I mean, they were so solid, but and I think this is actually a canon book, so I think the information in here is all accurate. Pablo Hidalgo was consulted anyway. In fact, one of the really interesting things in this for me was that they talk about the history of the Millennium Falcon, but they actually talk about the history of YT492727ZED, which is the actual serial number for the Millennium Falcon, because apparently, now we all know this, we've seen it, or some of the intrepid Star Wars fans have seen it in episode 3, where the Millennium Falcon was there and it had this funny blue circular paint job. They explain a bit. In fact, actually, you can't see it in the video, but I have a little titanium edition of that actual Millennium Falcon. But come to find out, it wasn't called the Millennium Falcon when that specific serial number was first put out there, before Lando Calrissian even owned it. Originally, it was called the Stellar Envoy, which I thought was an interesting bit of trivia. and it could have belonged to some like group called the Republic Group. I mean, they really go deep in, but there's tons of schematics in here. I mean, there's just really, really great shit. This is a phenomenal book if you want to check it out. And then if you actually want to fly the thing, your best bet is to go hit up X-Wing Alliance, in my opinion. Like that's really the only way to fly the Millennium Falcon, at least from the cockpit. Or fly a YT 1300, I should say. If you want to fly a YT 2400, you can go play Shadows of the Empire. But
yeah, you actually get to fly the Millennium Falcon in the last mission of X-Wing Alliance. You do the Death Star 2 run.
Oh yeah. No, you're right. And you do also. I should bring up actually another game where you can fly the Falcon. I think is Rebel Assault, or not Rebel Assault. Rogue Squadron 2.
Right.
In Rogue Leader, I think you get to fly the Millennium Falcon there as well. But anyway, I mean, yeah, great book, great companion piece. Honestly, I think to this, you can certainly check and see how well did these modders do on the X-Wing Alliance upgrade. Did you have any other comments on the X-Wing Alliance upgrade, Rob?
Yeah, no. Other than, like I said, they're continuing to update it. It's really phenomenal work that they're doing. Like the ships just look great. And you know, some people might think they even look dated. The upgraded versions look dated, but it is really kind of the best way to experience like a modern looking Star Wars sim.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I don't, honestly, this isn't news that I was going to get into because like I'm just modern gaming scene in Star Wars is just horseshit.
Right.
But like I know they're doing a Clone Wars package for Battlefront 2, and
yeah,
Obi-Wan's going to be in it now, young Obi-Wan anyway.
Right. And they got was General Grievous too.
Yeah, and they got the voice actors from the Clone Wars to come in and do it all, which I mean, right. I think that's great if they're getting work. I'm not complaining about that. But yeah, I don't think we're ever going to get games like this again. So
no, it's not looking like it.
Yeah,
that kind of died with LucasArts when Disney gave that company the axe.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I don't know. It's such a sad state with Star Wars gaming. I'd love to one day see the numbers of how do these classic games sell when they get re-released on GOG or Steam compared to like how does Battlefront 2 sell? And
right.
I gotta believe that the classic gaming, like on some kind of percentage anyway, is just killing them. Like because who wouldn't want to play these games? They're well, so
I mean,
solid.
just the fact that I mean, I don't think there is a video game journalism outfit out there that hasn't talked about those games at one point or another.
Right.
So the fact that those games, being 20 years later or more, are still getting, press says something. Yeah, do you think right. do you think 20 years from now anybody's going to be talking about Battlefront or Battlefront 2? I don't think so. Not at all.
Yeah, the servers are going to be shut down. So they're not even going to bother.
I mean, I get nostalgic about them. I really doubt it.
Yeah, same here. I don't think so. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Very similar. Well, I was going to make an analogy with the music scene. Like I can't picture, like Kiss is actually going on their final tour after like 50 fucking years, and like I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, do you ever think in 50 years people are going to give a shit about Slipknot? Like, no. Okay, that's just not happening. So, I mean, and that's it. Like, there's times where you just get those people in there with passion that are in there early and are innovating and everything, and then anything that comes after, I don't know, they could try and carry on that legacy, but when they don't even try it, you're just not going to remember it. And I think that's right. True in gaming as well. So. Anyway, great pick for fan production of the month, the X-Wing Alliance upgrade. I am fully supportive of this. I think it's wonderful. So, all right, let's get into our question of the month. And this is kind of a fun one, I think, because for a lot of people, they try to find anything good in the prequels. I mean, then for some people, they try really hard and they're like, oh, shit, I can't find anything. So the question for this month that I posited is, who is the best character of the prequel trilogy? I think I mean, we could honestly even do this right now. Like in the original trilogy, I think everybody has their pick, and it's a pretty quick pick for them. Most people probably would say like Han Solo, or maybe Luke Skywalker, maybe Darth Vader. And, I mean, it makes sense. But I think if you think about the prequel trilogy, it might be a little bit harder to think of like who is the best character from that, though I can imagine what most people would say. Like there's one that most people always compliment the prequels about, But anyway, Robin, I mean, what do you got for a pick on this, or what do you have to say about it?
I really loved Qui-Gon Jinn, like
Ooh.
right from the beginning. And I know he's only in one movie. I mean, technically, you could say he was in Episode 3 because
technically you do hear his voice. Yeah,
you hear his voice. But yeah, and this is, and I'm totally biased because I also I love Liam Neeson as an actor.
Yes,
I don't think I've ever seen anything him do that I didn't enjoy.
Same. Yeah, Rob Roy, everything.
Yeah.
Man.
So I think it was a brilliant casting move and a great character, and all that came together. And I love that character.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Shit. In fact, I remember. So first off, I just want to say, I think most people would probably say Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's the easy pick.
Yeah, because and most people do agree. Even people that hate the prequels agree that Ewan McGregor was awesome.
Right.
As Obi-Wan, it was the perfect move. He just delivered, and it was Obi-Wan. But I remember, so back in '99 when Episode 1 came out, really the only character and only thing about Episode 1 that my girlfriend at the time, that really put steam in her stride was Qui-Gon Jinn. She thought he was sexy. Like, she was actually having dreams about Qui-Gon Jinn. And just thought, like, and everything. And I got it. Like, she would talk about it. Like, there's this point where he gives this sly grin to Watto. And she was just like, she said she would just melt every time he'd do it, Yeah.
Well, he was just so, I mean, the fact that he was kind of like the rebel Jedi master too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and
he was the only one that really kind of had the balls to speak out against the council.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. I liked the book. Was it Cloak of Deception, which was this is the old expanded universe, but that was a prequel to Episode 1.
Yeah.
And he was a major part of that. And I thought he was great. He also, there was the Jedi Apprentice series where he was teaching another apprentice that went dark.
And Outbound Flight by Timothy Zahn.
Yeah. I mean, Qui-Gon was a great character in the expanded universe too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a totally solid pick. And yeah, Liam Neeson's just, and he just brings gravitas to whatever he does.
Yeah.
And also, here, go ahead if you had.
I initially fell in love with Liam Neeson. He played a role. They did a adaptation of Rob Roy, where he played the Scottish rebel, and it had the unfortunate timing of coming out around the same time as Braveheart. So you had two kind of like Scottish heroes competing against each other. And in kind of like the long view of history, I still think Rob Roy was the superior film, and Liam Neeson has a whole lot to do with that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I know there's been memes made about this, but like, this is the guy, the actor anyway, who would play the characters that would train Batman. Like he trains Obi-Wan Kenobi. He leads the A-Team. Which actually I loved him as Hannibal in the A-Team. I thought he was brilliant, which is amazing to think that I would never have picked him for that, but he just does a phenomenal job. I mean, this guy has like trained the best or led the best in the world. He's really got it all.
That really brings more context to your past girlfriend's infatuation, because he really is the ultimate daddy.
Oh yeah. No, you're totally right. I mean, if you're fucking training Batman, I mean, and everything else, like, absolutely. Just in fact, another great movie that he did, and this is one I don't think people think about when they think of him. There's a movie called Chloe. It's a thriller, very, very sexy film, and like intentionally. And he was incredible in that. Wow. Anyway, what a stud. Good call on Qui-Gon Jinn. So, all right, I guess I'll go with mine. I really love Padme. I mean,
I knew it.
I think she's tremendous. I mean, I just like in everyone, and I know some people like think that her lines are really cheesy in Episode 3 and all that, but I thought it was all great. Like I liked it. I can dig some Shakespearean kind of Lord Byron-esque poetic talking. I don't mind that at all, but particularly like she was Episode 2, the only saving grace of episode 2, in my opinion, aside from maybe the Yoda versus Dooku fight, is her. Like, she made that movie. If there's anything good about that movie, it's her. In fact, even her little joke of aggressive negotiations, I thought she delivered that like way better than Anakin did. It was like, you know, that was, and even like Obi-Wan's line, it's like, oh, she seems to be on top of things. So like, oh, hell
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how I knew that you were going to pick Padme is because I almost picked her too.
Sure.
And she's my number 2 pick. And like, and I really had to think about it, like, you know what? So many of these things, Brian and I, like, we kind of picked the same thing. So like I had to do this. This is not to say that Qui-Gon isn't my number 1. He still is, but Padme nearly beat him out.
Yeah. Just such a great character. I can't wait for the they have that new novel coming out soon, where she's the centerpiece of it. She was great in the Thrawn novel as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the I forget who the actor is. They got to voice her in the Thrawn audio version of the book, but really did a fantastic job. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and in Clone Wars, she's great in the entire Clone Wars series. I mean, she delivers everything. I just such a great character. You know, totally believable that that's Leia's mom. And you know, let's be clear, that's a hard thing to pull off. Like that's, you know, Leia is the, you know, maybe this is the term to use, like the prototypical like badass female in movie history in a very real way. I mean, there's been others, but like she was definitely the biggest, I think.
Right. I mean, she's practically an archetype unto herself now.
Yes. Yeah. And so to pull off believably that you're her mom, that takes some stones. And
those are some big boots to fill.
Yeah, and she did it. And you know, Natalie Portman, I mean, looked amazing, looked the part, delivered, everything seemed legit. I know she doesn't like to think about her role in it, but that's a shame because I really I thought she was phenomenal. I just loved her.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that you know, other than Ewan McGregor, most of the prequel trilogy actors have kind of gotten some flack to one degree or another for their part in those movies.
Yeah.
And that's a shame.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I gotta say, like, I would be totally remiss if I did not mention in episode 2 when they're like in some hearth or whatever on Naboo, and she's wearing that black dress, and they're kind of having her and Anakin are having a moment, and she just looked phenomenal. So I just got to put that out there that I was that really blew me away at the time, and it's probably the only reason I've ever really rewatched episode 2 a whole lot. I did, you know what I liked in episode 2? I did like Anakin where he's saying that whole scene where he's talking about what he did to the Tusken Raiders. I thought that was like really dark shit, and in a good way.
Yeah, it was almost too dark.
Yeah, it almost went too far. In fact, there's a song. Is it Cannibal Corpse or Deicide? One of these really hardcore, you know, death metal bands. They took that clip and they like really slowed it down to where it sounds like satanic. It doesn't sound like Hayden Christensen saying it, and like it sounds really fucking evil. You know, you put a little screaming behind it, and it's like, oh wow, like I mean, just what's being said sounds horrible, especially when it's out of context. But yeah, great little moment there. So, all right. Well, you mentioned, you're number 2 there. I think I'll give a quick number 2. And I think that, Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine just was incredible, like shockingly incredible, that he could pull all that off so believably. And I thought even when he was over the top, you know, with this whole unlimited power and everything, you know, like all of that was it just worked. And the opera scene in episode 3, I mean, you were like both in awe and scared of this guy at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like, I mean, just a tremendous actor. I can't believe that guy hasn't done more.
Yeah.
So I got to give it to him.
He's done some bit parts in there, but he really hasn't had kind of any sort of lead or major supporting role in other stuff as far as I know.
Yeah, because like when he's being nice as the chancellor or whatever, I mean, like you totally believe it. Yeah, it's a nice guy. And I know that Lucas was originally trying to like sell it that you didn't know really if Sidious.
Right. Yeah. I was just going to mention that. I mean, he played it so nice that there was, I mean, even aside from Lucas's comments, there was huge debate after episode 1, whether or not they were the same character.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because that's just how well Ian McDiarmid did. I mean, it's just amazing. So I got to give it, those have got to be my 2 top picks, but actually number 3 for me probably would have been Qui-Gon Jinn. So I'm totally with you there. I get that all the way. But if anybody wants to mention Obi-Wan, of course, that's an obvious choice. And Ewan McGregor was absolutely brilliant. No question about that.
Yeah, it was really kind of amazing the number of just truly inspired casting decisions for those movies.
Yeah, because none of them were really a big deal at the time either.
Yeah.
Like even Liam Neeson wasn't like, I mean, the best thing he was known for at the time was Darkman, and that was kind of a comedy, her like a dark one anyway. So yeah, I think that those were some inspired choices. You're totally right about that. So anyway, unless you got anything else, Robin, I think we can wrap this baby up.
Right on.
Cool. So, as we start or end a show, usually every month, I mean, how are you feeling about Star Wars right now? What's going on for you?
I'm enjoying the content that's coming out right now. I hope they can keep it up. Certainly hope, it seems to be a constant wish for them to improve some things in the comics region. Mm-hmm. But I'm enjoying Resistance. I'm looking forward to the new shows coming out next year. So yeah, it's good times.
Yeah, I'm liking most of the news that I hear, and and the ideas that are coming out that they're announcing. I haven't had anywhere near the problems that I had, like say last year, and also I'm actually liking the little break in novels, like the fact that we're not getting a bunch like a novel a month and everything. I'm actually, interestingly, I'm enjoying that.
It's interesting, but didn't they announce a new Han Solo novel in the last Star Wars show?
Oh, I don't know that they did.
I think they did. They did.
But...
There wasn't too many details. Oh, you got to watch that just for the fact that Sam Witwer is in that episode talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, no, I did watch it, but I didn't catch the thing. Yeah, I thought actually that was a great episode.
That was great, especially when he's like, you know what? I think the Sith are really into playing Vampire the Masquerade. I'm like, fuck yes.
Yes, Sam Witwer is the man. Like, I mean, just oof. Yeah.
I think it'd be fair to say that both Brian and I have a bit of a man crush on him.
Absolutely. I totally do. Yeah, that was a nice little like just a little segment that they did with him and the other guys. And what was it? What was it, Standy Gutierrez or whatever?
Yeah.
That was genuinely funny. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, that's great. Instead of Andy's always great.
She's a sweetheart. I met her at Celebration in Anaheim years ago, and she is just as nice in person as she is on the show. She's just a fantastic human being.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean that she's great. You can see she's very genuine, which is tough to get in that position.
Right. Because really I mean, like her job is basically it's a marketing wing of Star Wars, but she somehow managed to make it feel not like shilling.
Yeah, exactly. So, and again, I did Standy Gutierrez. That's awesome. So anyway, so overall, I guess we're both feeling pretty good about things right now, which is great, because that hasn't always been the case on the Star Wars update where we're feeling good about Star Wars. But anyway, so that'll be it for your I was about to say December. No, your November 2018 Star Wars update. Robin, is always such a great time. And we will see all of you on the other side.